you will need scissors, kawaii craft light, felt, cross stitch needle, .14 count plastic aida, magnet, the embroidery floss of the choice colors, and glue. School glue, tacky glue, or craft glue will work. We are not going to go over step by step how you would make the sushi. The instructions are provided with the kit. However, we are going to learn how to get started with the basics of cross stitch. And once you have that information, you should be able to follow the instructions and make your sushi. So I cut off a piece of the floss already. An embroidery floss is made up of 6 strands that are wound together. So we'll be using 2 of those strands when we are making the magnet. So in order to do this, you'll need to separate 2 of the strands and pull. And it may knot up towards the bottom, but just keep working on it and it will end up separating. So once you have your 2 strands, then you're going to end up threading your needle. There's going to be no need to make it a knot at the end of the floss because we will end up locking the floss in place with our stitches. So if you have ever used perler beads, cross stitch is essentially the same concept. You're using the grid to make the final product, so counting is extremely important. So most cross stitch patterns suggest that you would find the middle and work out. So we're not going to be doing that. We are going to start with the bottom of the pattern and then continue upwards. So you're going to place the needle at the bottom corner and pull it through the hole. And make sure that you do not pull it all the way through because, well, it'll end up falling out. So you're going to use your finger then to hold down the tail of the floss down. So you're going to continue working in this same direction, working left to right for the first row. And if you mess up, because it is easier to undo the stitches then if you continue everything in the same direction first. So you're going to find the hole that is directly diagonal to that first stitch that you made. So you're going to pull the needle through that hole and then you should end up with a diagonal stitch. To make the next stitch, you're going to find the hole that is directly across from that first hole that you pulled the needle through. And that will be the start of your second stitch. Now flip it over to make sure that your first stitch locked down the tail end of your embroidery floss. And then make your second part of that stitch, doing it directly diagonal from that stitch, and see you'll end up going straight down from it, and that will end up again locking the tail end of your embroidery floss down. So you're going to continue on in this same pattern. So let's say your pattern requires 12 stitches across. So you're going to end up making 12 of these diagonal stitches. Okay, so once you have your desired amount of stitches that you needed, we are going to be making the X pattern of the cross stitch. And so you're going to continue in the same manner, except the diagonal stitches will go in the opposite direction. So place it through the first hole that is directly down from the last stitch that you made. and then you're going to go directly diagonally across and see where you have your first X pattern. And then you're going to end up continuing in this same manner all the way to the end of your row. We're going to work on our next row. In our pattern, we're going to widen out the design. And so again, you just do it by counting. You count the next hole over and then start the new stitching. Again, you're going to repeat it the same how you did the first row. You start at the bottom hole and then do your stitch into the hole that is directly diagonal to it. And then come down and insert it into the hole that's directly across. So we're going to continue on for a few stitches until we reach, let's say we want to do an eye or a color change. So an example here from the sushi cross stitch pattern, we have eyes and cheeks and a mouth. And we are going to put in an eye right here. And again, it's all about counting. So we're going to, if you want one stitch in between the holes, you see like a peg. You're going to skip a peg if you want to do just one stitch of a different color. And if you want to do like 2 stitches, then you will skip 2 pegs. So since I'm going to make an eye here, I'm only going to skip 1 peg. And then continue on with my stitching. So once you've completed your row of diagonal stitches, you will then go back to create the second diagonal stitches to create the cross stitch effect. Make sure again that you would skip the peg or the section that you have for your various eye color. So I'm going to change colors to add my eye, and I've already cut my black embroidery floss and then took out 2 of the strands. Now it's the same thing again. You're going to start it off, make sure you lock the stitch with your other stitching, and then you have the eye. Now essentially before you add another color, you kind of want to finish off your final design first, or your overall what has the most majority of colors. You want to finish those off first. But I'm just going to do this for the sake of time and to show you this is how you add an eye or change a color. Looking at it, decided, you know what, let's add another little eye on this side. Now it's time to add some details to my creation. So if you see with the sushi, you see some white lines that are dividing up the sushi, and then you see a line for the mouth. So what I'm going to do is to create a mouth. Now there's not enough space in between my eyes to do a curve, so I'm just going to do a straight across mouth. And basically you're going to do a running stitch. So you can see I'm inserting the needle through one of the holes in between the eyes. And then instead I'm not doing diagonal, I'm going to go straight across. So you go to the stitch or the hole that is straight across. And there we go. It's my little mouth. Now it's time to turn our creation into a magnet. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut the excess plastic aida. So you're going to cut it so you're not cutting your stitches. So you're going to cut as close as you can without destroying them because, well, yeah, you don't want to destroy your project. So I'm going to cut pretty much the line after my stitching. You can see it's close enough without destroying your stitches. So you're going to cut all the way around your final project. And then you're going to take your felt and you're going to end up gluing it onto your plastic. Now, I used school glue and you can use tacky glue. They recommend it. So it probably would be better, but I'm not sure. So I did end up taking needle and thread and sewing the two pieces together just to create a stronger bond. Now, sewing the magnet on, or actually you're going to glue the magnet on instead of sewing it. And again, I just used school glue for that, and that seemed to work out quite well. And this is where your paintbrush comes in. You can paint the glue onto the magnet, you can use your finger. I end up using a scrap piece of the plastic aida to dip it into the glue bottle and then just painted it on. I really hope you enjoy making your little cross-stitch sushi magnet. Now remember, this pattern is from Kawaii Craft Life, and this book also contains so many other adorable projects that you can make at home. Thank you for joining, and I really hope you have a wonderful day.